Now this one, Dad, is not going to be easy. We're ranking every Premier League manager from best to worst. Now, bear in mind, these 20 people have one of the best jobs in the world. This is a difficult video. So smash the like, because you've got a feel for us here.
Absolutely, Theo. Let's get straight into it with Mikel Arteta at Arsenal, Theo. He came to Arsenal in December 2019. Before that, he was a player with Everton and at Arsenal. Of course, he was captain there. And then he worked under Pep Guardiola, and he won a couple of Premier Leagues. So this man is a winner. How's he done at Arsenal?
I don't know. It seems like everyone born on my road is built to be superhumans. I see him down the road getting a brew,
that is
getting his morning bread, and I have to rank him high because he'll see me tomorrow morning. If he watches this video, go, hey, Theo, why you rank me low? Listen, Arteta, you've done enough to get in the top rankings here. I'm thinking at least top 3.
Do you know what, Theo? I think in his first season, Arsenal were 5th, and then after that, Arsenal have just improved. They're now at the point where 2 seasons running, they were runners-up just.
But let's not forget what he did before Arsenal. He was the assistant to the Manchester City side that broke 100 points, not just won the Premier League, the only team to ever get 3 figures and win the league, which is just insane. And Pep had said in so many interviews during that year that Arteta played a massive role to keep the players motivated, and together they had the dream team since he's come to Arsenal. In the first season, they won an FA Cup. They fell quite low, I think they were like 7th or 8th, but they built it back with that big win at Wembley. The year after that, they were 5 points from the title. Last year, 2 points from the title. Arteta is getting closer and closer to Pep as things come. And this year, who knows what will happen, but it's all because of Mikel and believing in his tactics, trust the process at the Gunners, and they truly do that.
He is the 2nd best manager in the Premier League.
A lot to come. I'm putting him 2nd. There's only one manager better. Put in the comments who you think it is.
Aston Villa now, and Unai Emery, Theo, got a knee injury. He was a lower league Spanish footballer, and after that he went into management. Started off at the 3rd level, and of course later he managed teams like Valencia, Spartak, Sevilla, PSG and Villarreal, and of course Arsenal. How is he doing at Aston Villa?
Tell you what, he's had a journey. And if we look back to his Arsenal days, Dad, he really brought the boom to them with the Europa League win. But in the Premier League, they didn't do enough. A lot of the fans got frustrated. Unai out. We all remember the AFTV interviews. They weren't happy. They wanted more. And being post-Wenger, it's a very difficult job. So he took his time out the game, came back, went to Villa, and brought them from, when Steven Gerrard left, I think they were 16th. Now they're Champions League football, so top 4. That's the Unai Emery impact. They got to a Conference League semi-final 2nd leg, which I was at, where Olympiacos knocked them out. They went on to win the competition. With Villa, Dad, it's very simple. They've put a new 5-year contract on him because he's one of the best managers in the Premier League. I'm putting him 3rd place. Boom.
That is a massive shout there. Now, I remember a few years ago, we were watching Bolton Wanderers at Villa Park. Remember, we're talking about Aston Villa. And by the money they've spent, they should be maybe 8th, 9th, 10th in the league. But they're not. They were 4th last season. They're playing Champions League football and winning. Unai Emery, Theo, is overachieving because he's an experienced, very, very good manager. Because of all that, he's one of the best managers in Europe. 3rd place. Andoni Iraola now at Bournemouth, Theo. Another Spaniard, 3 teams, 3 Spaniards. Now he was a defender at Bilbao. I think over 500 appearances for one team. Then he was a manager in that part of the world. Then he replaced Gary O'Neill. And in his first season, did a very good job.
Yeah, another hard-working lad that deserves the position to be a Premier League manager. At Rayo Vallecano, he won the Spanish Copa del Rey, which is basically the FA Cup. I don't even know how Rayo Vallecano won that thing, but it's incredible what he's brought to the table, getting them promoted as well. His next move was always going to be big, but Bournemouth in the Premier League, that's a massive step up. And the Spaniard has adapted brilliantly. I mean, last season, to see someone like Solanke go for 75 million, he brought the best out of his top players, sold them for big bucks.
You know what
that
he
keeps the
brought?
board happy.
You know what he brought?
What?
He brought the boom.
It's that possessive style of play. It's the dominant flank work with the overlapping fullbacks. It's everything that Bournemouth add to the table. They get a lot of chances, and in some games this season, the fans were probably a bit annoyed they didn't score more, like Chelsea at home. But it will come, and you've got to believe in a process. He's not had that much time in the Premier League, but he's already broken the Bournemouth points record, which is 48. I've not got much else to base it on. I'm still going to go 12th place, but I think that's respectable.
I think that's very good, Theo. Now remember, we're talking about AFC Bournemouth. A lot of people will look at this team and say, why are they even in the Premier League? So it's about keeping the team in the Premier League and then thinking, do you know what, can we do that a little bit better? I'm going to stick with him and say 14th. Thomas Frank now at Brentford, Theo, and he came over from Brondby can't be when Brentford were in the second level of English football.
Yes.
He went to a playoff, he lost. He went to another playoff, he won. And he's got the team consolidated in the Premier League. So overall, has he done a good job?
Amazing job. I remember when Brentford first got promoted, which by the way, he did it. I sat here on predictions and said they're going down. I was wrong.
Yes.
I got clipped. Brentford still talk about that today. And many other creators thought the same. He proved the bookies and the creators, the pundits, wrong. Nobody thought Brentford would come into the Prem with a statement. We knew a lot about it, but to bring it to the top division in the world and for it to actually work and to finish as high as 7th, narrowly miss out on Europe, 9th place last season, incredible. Selling Ivan Toney for stupid amounts to Saudi. It's exactly what the club has built up over the years on the training ground, through the facilities, getting rid of the academy, focusing on the first team and a B team. These are all decisions made by the manager, Thomas Frank, and of course the board too. So this all goes into credit of improving a football club, and that's why I've got him in 9th place.
That is very generous, Theo. The first couple of seasons in the Premier League, 13th and 9th. So you look at that and think, great. Last season, now, of course, Ivan Toney was banned, and on top of that, there were a lot of injuries. 16th place, possibly not good enough. But what we've got to see going forward is a top 10 finish, because he's got the support of a very good owner who's put the money into this club. I'm going to put Thomas Frank 9th.
We agree then. We agree.
Fabian Herzler, the German at Brighton and Hove Albion, is only 31 years old, Theo. He guided St. Pauli of Germany to the Bundesliga. He's come to Brighton. What happens in his first month? Manager of the month.
Well, he's already beaten Manchester United and Tottenham at home. He's had some incredible high-scoring games. He's probably had matches like at home to Ipswich where they should have won, but it ended 0-0. He's a manager that you can't really understand. He brings a style of play that managers aren't prepared for. Will they adapt to Brighton's tactics? Who knows? But every time Brighton get a new manager, it comes with a statement. Tony Bloom wants someone with an impact. He's the youngest manager ever to get a club promoted to the top division in Germany. And now he's going to break records in England for sure. The thing is, he doesn't have much of a Premier League record to judge on, so I'm going to put him 8th place.
Do you know what, Theo? We're judging him after 7 games, aren't we? Which is very difficult to do. But I get the feeling, I believe in Tony Bloom. His recruitment is excellent. And I get the feeling this guy is going to work. So I'm going to agree with you and say 8th place.
The fluid attacking play, the aggressive styles. Teams aren't ready for it yet, are they?
They're not. Enzo Maresca joined Chelsea as manager in June 2024. So we're only judging him on a few games. But he had a good career in professional football, didn't he, Theo? And then he worked for Man City under Pep Guardiola. I think that could prove very important.
Correct.
Went to Leicester City, guided them to the Premiership, and now he's at Chelsea.
It's a great story, and a lot of people would think, well, Theo, how can you rank Maresca high? Because he's not had a history in the Premier League. He's just come from Leicester in the Championship, and that's it. You couldn't be more wrong. That man was part of the City setup. It was Maresca who was running the second team, the academy team basically, in Premier League 2, and made them win that whole league. It's a very clever move, I think, from Chelsea bringing him in, because he's got knowledge. Well, he's the nearest he can get to Pep Guardiola after Mikel Arteta. So naturally, it's a little bit of prediction, but I think you've got to rank him as one of the highest in the video.
Do you know what, Theo? Something has changed at Chelsea this season. I know it's only 7 games, but everything looks that little bit better. Now, there is a wonderful squad of players there, too many, as we keep saying. But it seems like Maresca is doing something very positive in a very difficult job.
I'm going to give him 6th place in this video.
And I'm going to do the same thing. I think this is going to work. 7th place. Oliver Glasner, the Austrian, joined Crystal Palace in February this year. Now, back in the day, he was a professional footballer in Austria. Then he was a manager in Germany with Wolfsburg and with Eintracht Frankfurt. And he had some success there, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. I was at the game, Europa League final, where he won that match in Seville against Rangers on penalties. They just kept fighting for him. And Glasner is a hero in Frankfurt because he brought them Champions League back for absolutely ages. It had been so long. And now he helped Palace in his first season finish 10th. It felt like a breath of fresh air when Roy Hodgson left. They were playing attacking, full-flowing football. So clearly when Glasner has the players, he can produce the results. We're talking about Eze, Elise, Mateta all firing. This season, a very different story. They currently sit 18th and they're winless. There's matches at home where last season they would have walked them, but they haven't. And it's fair to say, they may have kept Mark Guehi, but they lost Elise and the squad looks weaker. But I do blame the manager partly. You can't let Elise go quite late into the summer after the Olympics and not replace him. And because of that cock-up, really, Glasner is going to have to go a lot lower in this video than I probably would have said at the end of last season.
That is very true, Theo. You look at the 20 games he's been in charge of, won 7, drawn 6, and lost 7. And they've actually scored a lot more goals than they've conceded. It's actually quite a good record.
But the form has gone like this, Dad.
It has, and that is the key. Crystal Palace fans, all they will look at now is the Premier League table.
Exactly.
18th place is worrying. Now, I get a feeling he's going to turn it round. But overall, Theo, because it's almost too early, I'm going to say 15th.
I'm going 17th.
Sean Dyche, the Englishman at last, Theo, joined Everton in January of 2023. Now, in his youth, Theo, he was a good lower league footballer. You know,
correct.
He's done all of that. He's been in the dressing room. He knows what English football is all about. Now, he's had 10 seasons in the Premier League. Now, we know at Burnley, he got a couple of promotions. He got Burnley up to 7th in the Premier League, and most of the time, he kept them there.
They played in Europe. They played in Europe with that Burnley squad. They went from Championship football. They got relegated from the Prem, won the Championship, came up, got European football. I mean, that Dyche story was unbelievable.
And you know what Sean Dyche is, Theo? He is no nonsense and he is an overachiever. We saw that at Burnley. At Everton, he came in and got, I'm going to call it a 12th place finish. Take away the points deduction, 12th place. 13 clean sheets that season.
Second highest in the league.
Second highest in the league. And this season, okay, a poor start, but he's turning it round. And Everton will not get relegated.
The question is, the further we go on in the season, are his tactics outdated? In a Premier League where you've got all these new mindsets, Spanish managers, guys playing fluid, tiki-taka, attacking football, aggressive pressing, Hurzeler style. And then you've got Sean Dyche, who likes to play 4-4-2. He likes to go long if it's on. It's a very different ball game for him. But it does come off a lot of times, and Everton are starting to turn their results around, and maybe they can go on a run.
Theo, you can only work with the assets that you've got. Now, take a look at the Everton squad, and I would say that 4 out of 5 managers would not keep that squad in the Premier League, but Sean Dyche would.
I'm going to get straight to it. I'll put him 13th place because respect needs to be given to his name for the amount of years he's put into the Premier League.
And I'm going to put him in 10th place, top 10. Marco da Silva, the Portuguese man, has been at Fulham for over 3 years now. He used to play football in Portugal, then he used to manage down in Portugal and Greece, came over to England. He managed, I think it was Watford and Hull, wasn't it? And then Everton. So this is a guy with a lot of managerial experience. How has he done at Fulham?
Yeah, he's got a lot of history, doesn't he? He's been everywhere. But yet, he kept fighting and he never gave up as a manager and found the position that he wants. He's now a Premier League manager. He took time out the game. He worked on his craft. He came back to Fulham. He's been there 3 years. Longer than any other club in the Premier League has given him. And they gave him back the respect for getting the results. And the players love him. People want to be Fulham players. They want to go there, live in West London, look up to a manager like him. He deserves what he's bringing to the table. And little things like João Palhinha, you sell him for 60 mil. You don't really replace him. You bring him a guy off the bench last season, Sasha Lukic. He's doing a great job. Marco Silva's tactics and ideation is top notch, and I really believe in what he brings to the table. They finished 10th and 13th. That's incredible for Fulham.
Of course, in his first season at Fulham, he got that incredible promotion. And then, like you said, a lot of people thought they're going to come straight down. No, 10th, 13th, and now they're sitting in the top half. And like you said, Theo, it's about life experience. It's about adversity. It's about learning maybe from mistakes and from things that go wrong. This is one of the best managers in the Premier League.
And I'm putting him 7th place.
4th place.
Wow, 4th. You went as high as 4th.
Absolutely. Kieran McKenna, the Northern Irishman at Ipswich Town. And a lot of people are talking about him. And his story is fascinating, Theo. Age 22, he was at the Tottenham reserves. Now, he never got to play a full game because of injury. But what he did, he picked himself up. He thought, right, I'm going to coach, I'm going to manage, I'm going to teach, both at Spurs and then at Man United. He learned a lot at Old Trafford. 3 years ago, goes to Ipswich when they were in the first division. They were playing Bolton Wanderers, weren't they? We remember those days.
We do, yeah.
Promotion, another promotion. Everyone's talking about this man. Possible future manager of Man United. But how do we rank him after only 7 games in the Premier League?
Possible future manager of England too.
Wow.
But of course, Pep Guardiola might be getting the call. We'll speak about him later on in this video. Dad, look, Ipswich have gone from League One to the Premier League thanks to this man. And he left a good job at Manchester United to go take up that Ipswich job when they were in the 3rd division. That takes some confidence.
Yes.
Because if he really believed in himself, he could have just waited at Man United, made his way up, maybe taken the job further down the line, assistant manager. You know, you're at Old Trafford, you're loving it in Carrington. But no, he went into the deep end.
Yes.
He went into the lower leagues and wanted to do it the hard way. And now he's reaping the rewards in the Premier League as a senior manager. And you know what? Ipswich have shown some real qualities this season.
Yes, yeah.
It was a good pickup to get Delap. They've got a very similar team as to have in the Championship. They got 4 draws in a row before that West Ham game. I think out of all promoted teams, Ipswich are the best chance of staying up because I believe in this manager. So I'm putting him 15th because it's not easy to compare against these Premier League level players that have been in the seasons year after year, but I still believe in his project.
I get the feeling this is the real deal. Certainly talking to Ipswich fans, their worry is what is one thing, that he's going to be poached. 13th place.
Wow.
Steve Cooper, the Welshman at Leicester City, is another guy with an interesting backstory, Theo, because he was playing in the Welsh leagues back in the day, so I suppose that's kind of semi-pro. Age 27, he got his UEFA Pro licence. Now that is very young for that.
So young, yeah.
And he managed the England under-16s, the England under-17s. So what you're seeing is a man who didn't make it at the top level, but decided, I'm going to be a coach. He coached Swansea. I remember that playoff final that did they lose to Brentford? Then he managed Nottingham Forest, and now he's at Leicester. But overall, how do we rate him alongside some great managers?
Well, he actually promoted Forest in the playoffs, Dad. After when he took over, they were bottom of the league.
That's true.
So in that same season, he took them from literally 24th to a playoff spot to getting promoted. It's one of the most ridiculous moments in football, and Steve Cooper is the reason for that. You see the interviews when they won at Wembley, and all the players are just saying the manager brought such a great positivity around the camp. We just wanted to play for him. So we've got to give him respect. He did a great thing in the Championship. In the Premier League, he got sacked next season when they're in 17th. That's not even a relegation spot. So maybe that's a little bit unfair, but they did invest a lot. Remember when Forest went up? You can see both sides, and the Leicester job is even tougher because the squad is weaker, and he goes in knowing, as he's a previous Forest manager, let's just say the fans won't give him as much time as he may have hoped.
Yeah.
He's a really good lad. I think everybody says that about Steve Cooper. His man management, excellent. Tactically, is he up there in the Premier League? Well, time will tell if he can keep this Leicester team up. But right now, I'm going to put them 18th.
Do you know what? By all accounts, he's a really nice human being. I've seen him in interviews. He comes across really well.
Exactly, yeah.
I just wonder whether in 5 years he's going to be a Premier League manager. I get the feeling he won't be. For this video, 18th place.
We agree.
Arne Slot now, the Dutchman at Liverpool.
Yes.
And back in the day, he had a playing career in the Netherlands, then went into management in the Netherlands, particularly with Feyenoord. He won the Eredivisie with them, which was huge, wasn't it?
Feyenoord is a tough job in the Dutch league because you've got so many fans and they're not always happy. You have to be winning games. You have to be bringing the best out of your players. Someone like Santiago Jimenez, he was at his peak under Slot. Even more recently, new managers haven't been able to find the same form with him, the Mexican forward. He won them the league, and that was very difficult at the time. Ajax was still at the top of the game, so were PSV. He won them the cup the next season. And a year after that, he went on a Conference League run. That's what Liverpool fans like. They want to go on European runs. They want a manager who's got attacking style of play. That's what Feyenoord had. And he found talents, brought them to the team, and their market value always doubled. You could see the players that they were selling Feyenoord for double the price when they bought him. He spotted them. Liverpool doing a similar thing. Since he's arrived, Luis Diaz has improved so much. And it's not just him, Gravenberch. How good is he? You've called him the best player so far for Liverpool.
Absolutely. And let's think about this, Theo, because he's got an incredibly hard job because he's replacing Jurgen Klopp. Now, think about when Sir Alex left Man United. Think about when Arsene Wenger left Arsenal. It's very difficult when a legend leaves and somebody comes in because any little slip-up will be pounced upon by the fans, by the players, by people like us. But it's been seamless. Arne Slot has come in, won 6 out of 7 games. Liverpool are top of the league. They've only conceded 2 goals. And that is huge.
I'm going to say Slot is 4th. I put him very high, considering he doesn't have any Premier League history. Do you agree with me?
I agree with you, Theo. We are looking into a crystal ball
here,
we
are,
aren't
a little
we?
bit future.
6th place.
Wow, so a little bit lower.
Pep Guardiola now, another Spanish man at Manchester City. Let's not forget, back in my day, this was a fine footballer. He won the European Cup in 1996 with Barcelona. He managed Barcelona, and at the age of 37, he did the treble, including the UCL. Theo, what do you think of this man?
It's very simple, Dad. He's ruined football.
What?
Since he's come to the Premier League, there's one style of play that everybody seems to be adopting, and it's because of him. You go to stadiums now, and everybody is just copying the Man City way, the Pep Guardiola way. What football was years ago, where you had creative talents, people who got on the ball, did things like Yaya Toure. He fell out with players like that. Character in footballers has gone now. It's all about who can do the system the best, and it's thanks to Pep Guardiola. But do you know what, Dad?
Go on.
Having that much of an impact on the Premier League,
yes,
making everybody else adapt because of you, that makes you the best. Some people
Yes.
go in this video and say 20th place, and I understand that. But I would say first. There's no in between. It's 20th or first for Pep Guardiola. It's all or nothing. He's the man that has changed the Premier League. He is the man that nobody can replace. Man City are begging right now. They've got banners up saying stay more than just this season because he's that pivotal. He's like a god to the blue side of Manchester. He is the best manager, not just in this video, the Premier League has ever seen. 7 seasons, 6-1. The Klopp-Pep battle, it's not a battle. He runs the show.
Now, I disagree with one thing. The best manager of all time in the Premier League is Sir Alex Ferguson.
Oh, I mean, that's a good point. Maybe I got a bit excited there, but to do it back to back to back, as he's done,
Yes.
6 out of 7,
Yes.
it's ridiculous.
And you know what England should do. And by the way, the England national team pay more money to a manager than any national team. Hire Pep Guardiola.
Yes.
Whatever it costs. Because if you hire Pep Guardiola, you win the Euros, you win the World Cup.
This is a
Full
message
stop.
to the FA. Get that done. I know you've inquired. Double down. Give him what he wants.
Manchester United now, and it's Erik ten Hag who's so special that we've changed location there. Bit
We've
of a
had
fire
to.
drill.
This is going to be some preparation needed. We're talking about Ten Hag. This season, everything's gone wrong. Last year, he won an FA Cup, which maybe made a bad season covered up a little bit. Probably kept him his job.
Theo, you've got to look back. I mean, he had a 13-year playing career, so he knows all
Yeah.
about football. He went to Ajax, got him to the semi-final of the Champions League. They did the League and Cup double. And you've got to say that early on at Man United, like you said, 3rd place and the League Cup, and then 8th place and the FA Cup. He wins silverware.
But there's no denying the money that they spend year on year compared to the results on the pitch are not good enough. That's why Manchester United are well behind the rest of the Big Six, as they call it. The reason being, something isn't run properly. And the finger is usually pointed at the manager. Would you say Ten Hag is actually one of the worst elite managers in the Premier League?
He's not going to last there, and I feel very sorry for him because of the setup at Manchester United,
Yeah.
which we've banged on about for years.
But it
It's
could
all
work.
wrong.
It could work at another club.
He
Same
will
Ajax.
move on soon. I
knows?
can't see him being in the Premier League long term. I don't think he's a great manager. I just don't see it.
I'm just going to get straight to my prediction. Out of 20 managers, I've put Erik ten Hag 19th.
Wow.
Because I'm not convinced by the results in the Premier League for the last few years with the teams and the money and the wage bill that they spend on, the owners invest in.
Yeah.
It's just not good enough.
I agree, Theo. Sadly, the manager gets the blame. 17th place.
Wow.
Eddie Howe is another Englishman, and he is the manager of Newcastle United, Theo. Now, as a player, he played for Bournemouth and Portsmouth down there on the south coast. Famously, the manager of Bournemouth took them from the 4th tier all the way to the Premier League, kept them up there, and was eventually relegated. Came to Newcastle, and my goodness, what a job he's doing.
The thing is about Eddie Howe is he's very valuable to the Premier League. There's a lack of English managers that are successful in the top tier. So the Premier League need those guys to stay. Eddie Howe has been linked with the England job, and he's been linked with the England job because he's one of the best managers in this competition. He did it hard with Bournemouth. He brought them up from League 2, League 1. Once he got to the Prem, he was like, I'm going to take a different move, a different route. Went to Newcastle, and at the time, they were flirting with relegation. Yes, they got the money, but he still got them to Champions League football. They beat PSG at home. They had special nights that people from the Northeast will never, ever forget. That is what Eddie Howe did, what he brought to the table. And I think he's one of the best managers. I'm putting him 5th place, and he deserves it.
I agree with you. I'm going to put him 5th. Nuno Espirito Santo, the Portuguese lad at Nottingham Forest. And this is another interesting one, Theo. He was a goalkeeper back at the day under Jose at Porto. He played in the 1996 Olympics for Portugal, amazingly. Management roles in Portugal and Spain. And then he came to Wolves, and he did well at Wolves,
In that first season, he beat Bolton 7-0 in the Championship.
Don't talk about that, please, Theo.
He brought players to the Championship like we've never seen before. Nuno knows how the Premier League works. He runs the show with it, Dad. Let's fast forward to this season at Forest. Took some time out of the game, came back to the Prem. They've got one of the best away records in the Premier League this season. They've gone to Chelsea, held them out for a draw, and that's a very top side. They beat Liverpool away, for example, where, of course, Hudson-Odoi, Anthony Elanga, these guys that are written off, he's making them great again. At Forest, within the training ground, he's bringing out talents from out of nowhere, and this is what I like about a manager like him. You want to play under him. They're 3rd best away form in the league. They travel and they smash it. So I've got them 11th, even though I think he should be way higher.
I think he's a good manager, not a great manager. 12th place. Russell Martin is the Scot at Southampton, Theo. And this is an interesting man. He had a good professional career, played for the likes of Norwich. Then he went into management. And what I like about this guy, he is an environmentalist. He's a member of the Green Party. He's vegan, Theo. He's
Seriously?
one of these guys. I'd love to meet him at a bar and just have a beer and talk about life. He's obviously a very, very interesting guy. He plays possession football. So when he was at Wycombe, I think there was a record broken for the number of passes before a goal went in. He's like a Premiership Ian Evatt, really. Respect to him for getting Southampton up through the playoffs. But will he last in the Premier League?
Yeah, I think he might need to start scranning some red meat because something's going wrong. I'm serious. That guy isn't ready for the Premier League right now. And in the Championship, he may have had some good runs, but I'm worried. I look at that Southampton team and I think relegation. I look at the manager and the way they play, I'm not convinced. It's a very harsh video because we're talking about the 20 most elite positions in the world, but he's 20th.
Do you know what, Theo? He's a young man, interesting guy, 38 years old he is. He did all right at Swansea, didn't he, at the Championship? It's brilliant to get Southampton up, but I've got my doubts about whether this project can last, so I have to put him 20th, and I apologise.
But enjoy Veganuary.
Ange Postecoglou, the first Aussie to manage a Premier League team, of course, at Tottenham Hotspur. This is a man who was a professional footballer back in Australia back in the day. Of course, he was manager of the Australian national team, went to Celtic, 2 seasons, 5 trophies, so he's got a good backstory.
Yeah, Ange is one of these managers that bring a style of play that everybody is shocked by, and he sticks by it. They could be winning games, they'll still attack. They can be losing games and they'll go forward. They'll, be trying to hold on to a result in the last second of a match, and he'll be attacking the ball like no other manager would.
Yeah.
He has a style, and you know what? I think he's not that flexible in a way. He won't adapt to how conditions are. And it does come off like Manchester United away, but it also embarrasses him, like being 2-0 up against Brighton away and then bottling it to 3 goals in the space of about 11 minutes. It's not good enough. And truthfully, Ange is leaving a statement on the Premier League. When he first arrived, he won 3 back-to-back Manager of the Month awards, the only manager to ever do that. He's probably Spurs' best chances of breaking their curse.
But I don't really think he's overachieving. And looking at the games this year, Theo, there are weaknesses there. That's what worries me. So 11th place for me.
I'm going to go 10th, very similar to you. He says he wins things in his second season, so if he does, maybe, for both of us, that will go up the rankings.
Julian Lopetegui now, the Spaniard at West Ham United. Back in the day, he was a goalkeeper for Real Madrid. He was a goalkeeper for Barcelona. He was a goalkeeper for the Spanish national team. He's done loads of stuff in management, Theo. Too much for me to talk about. But how's he doing at West Ham?
Well, that 4-1 win very recently has saved his bacon because the form wasn't good enough. They spent 150 million British pounds, a lot of money. They brought a striker who just played a Champions League final, Nicholas Füllkrug. Dortmund fans really loved him. They brought in Somerville from Leeds. They brought in so many talents. But right now, based on the form, it's hard to know. He took Wolves from bottom to 13th as well when he came in, which is solid, but then eventually got left or got sacked. I'm going to put him 16th right now.
Do you know what, Theo? He's got the medals and he's got the resume. You've managed Real Madrid, you've managed Spain. You've got something. All I can do is look at that West Ham record
Premier League
and say it's not very good so far. And for that reason, I might have egg on my face in a year or two's time. 16th place.
We agree.
And last but not least, it's Gary O'Neill, the Englishman at Wolverhampton Wanderers, Theo. Now, he's a man who had a good professional career. He's had a bunch of managerial roles along the way. But is he good enough for the Premier League?
He went to Bournemouth and was given the interim. They liked him, he kept them up, and they still sacked him. He took Wolves to 14th with 3 wins over Big 6 clubs, and Wolves fans were very surprised by the fact that he turned it around. Again, given the job in an interim, and it turned into a permanent. Now, Wolves fans are starting to turn. But they sold Pedro Neto, Max Kilman, big money. They haven't really reinvested fully to the levels that they could. Clearly, I don't know what's going on with the ownership situation, but it's not so sweet. I still believe in the man management that Gary O'Neill has, the tactics that he brings to the table. I just don't think he can compete with the quality that he has. He looks around the squad and it's a lot worse than last year. I'm actually believing that Gary O'Neill will take another Premier League job and continue on if he gets sacked this year, 14th. So a lot higher than you'd imagine, considering the Premier League table.
You know what, Theo? He's obviously a good man who's doing his best, but he's hampered by the ownership situation, as you say. I'm not sure he'll be a Premier League manager in 5 years' time, but prove me wrong. For that reason, I'm sorry, 19th.
Unfair on a Bolton lad. And that's it, guys. Let me know in the comments. We're just 2 mugs. How do you rank your manager if you support a Premier League team or even anywhere? Because we've got Ian Evatt. How long will we have him? Let me know in the comments. See you in a bit. Bye.